CTCL International. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of the many different sessions happening, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website where you registered. And now I'd like to hand it over to our presenters.
Thank you, Annabelle. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever in the world that you are located. Thank you so much for joining us for our Colleges That Change Lives session, Information for International Students. My name is Lauren Sefton, and I run the admission office of Rhodes College, a liberal arts and sciences college in the heart of Memphis, Tennessee. And I'm joined with me by an esteemed panel of all international admission counselors. We have traveled together and are excited to work with you as you explore your college search. They will each introduce themselves as they start their section of the presentation, but know that we're all excited to work with you as you explore your college search. We are going to talk a little bit about CTCL and then the value of a liberal arts education in the US and what that means. We'll explore academics as well as financial aid, testing questions, and ways you can further explore individual colleges. And we hope to leave a little bit of time for questions at the end. If you have had the chance to attend one of the general Colleges That Change Lives sessions this week so far, then this will just be a quick recap. If you haven't had the opportunity to do that, I encourage you to do so. But to give you an idea of who we are and why we all travel together, the Colleges That Change Lives is a consortium of 44 colleges and universities across the United States. You can see on this map we cover truly from coast to coast. We're mostly private schools with 2 public schools in that consortium across 26 different states. We are all small liberal arts and sciences colleges. And if you aggregate our enrollment, our average enrollment is around 1,500 students, but we range in size from a couple hundred students to several thousands of students. But overall,
Lauren, have you shared your screen?
Oh, yes, but you can't see it.
I can't see it.
Okay, well, thank you, Marie, for letting me know. Sorry,
We can see it.
I can see it.
We can see it.
I'm sorry, then I'm the one causing the problem.
2020 technology. If any of our audience cannot see the screen, please type it into the question box and we'll try this again if we need to. But I think you should hopefully be able to see the map with our schools listed across the country as well. We came together as a consortium after a book by the same title, Colleges That Change Lives, was first published in 1996. And we started traveling together as a group of schools. We created a nonprofit in 2006 of the 40 original founding members of in that book. And this book is a great resource. The book itself is a little bit outdated because the latest edition was from 2012. But as a nonprofit, we've continued to update our website with all of the member college profiles. So if you are excited about liberal arts and sciences colleges, we hope that you'll explore all of the member profiles and the website at ctcl.org. We decided to travel together because we knew that we really wanted to create a mindset of de-stressing the college search process. We know that this is a process that's filled with anxiety for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is the headlines and hysteria that you see in the news and online. And we wanted to try to demystify it because these are all schools that really are Office of Admission. We're looking for reasons to admit students, and we're excited to work with you in creating a very student-centered college search and college admission process. And one of the ways you can do that is to look beyond the rankings. We know that US News and World Report information is a main driver in especially international students' college searches, and we encourage you to look beyond those rankings. And one of the ways you can do that is to really explore why US News and World Report, how they come up with the rankings, and see if those factors actually align with your family values. And I'm guessing a lot of them, some of them may, but a lot of them probably don't. And a lot of them probably don't, especially in the percentages and weights of percentages that US News and World Report chooses to share their information. So we encourage you to basically throw out those rankings and really think about what you hope to experience over the course of your 4 years of university. In fact, there was a survey of 30,000 college alumni in 2015 called the Gallup-Purdue Index, where they surveyed alumni to ask, was college worth it? Was your college experience worth the investment? And what they found was that it wasn't so much where you go to college as much as how you go to college. What do you experience over the course of your 4 years? And that you would be almost 2 times more likely to say that your college experience was worth it if you had meaningful engagements with professors, you had a mentor on campus, you experienced an internship or research project that lasted at least a semester, if not longer, that you felt like you were developing a community of peers and of mentors by being part of a campus. And the good news is, small liberal arts colleges, especially colleges that change lives schools, really emphasize those kinds of experiences. The idea that Lauren Pope put together in this original book, and the original thing that brought us together, was that you would be a changed student, that college would be a transformative experience for you, and you would be changed from the first year to the 4th year of your college experience if you attended a school like one of those profiled in Colleges That Change Lives. So we encourage you to really think about what you're looking to get out of your college experience, think about what's important to you and your family, and go from there in your college search to really find the right fit. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Rion to talk a little bit more about what liberal arts and sciences actually means.
Hello, everyone. So this is your quick overview of the liberal arts, which hopefully will take about 2 minutes. I do tend to go over, but I'll try to speak quickly. So just to start with, the liberal arts is a curriculum, not a school. So it's the general undergraduate model in the United States. And it's basically the type of classes you take as an undergrad at Harvard, as an undergrad at Worcester, at Rhodes, at a lot of different places. The difference between a liberal arts college and a university is simply that a liberal arts college typically only has that undergrad program. So those students are doing their 4-year bachelor's degree, and then they continue on to their master's or PhD at a university. Universities typically are larger and include both undergraduate and graduate programs. So graduate programs have students then from both LACs, liberal arts colleges, and other universities. But generally, they've typically studied this liberal arts style education. Really, the liberal arts curriculum is this idea that you're preparing for a career, not just one job. Because people don't have career ladders these days. They tend to have several jobs over the course of their lives. And we want you to have the flexibility to change jobs or careers and be able to continue to learn new skills and develop new skills and adapt. So be innovative and entrepreneurial and all of those things. And those are wrapped up in this idea that you're taking classes not just in your major, which is the thing that you're most interested in, that you plan to focus on, but also in other subjects that will enhance this learning. So for example, we want you to develop critical thinking and communication skills, because even if you're an engineer and you're trying to build a building, you still need to be able to communicate effectively your ideas. You need to work in a team. You need to be able to look at your project from different points of view, including economics, social psychology, art, design, math, all of these things that go into each thing that humans are doing, right? And so in the liberal arts, we're trying to bring together people in our classrooms who can collaborate from different points of view, from different disciplines, from different backgrounds. And then once they start to kind of interact with each other and share ideas, they can become more innovative and learn skills like collaboration, adaptability, critical thinking, creativity, communication, all these things that they'll need in their careers. So liberal arts graduates are very successful. Probably the most popular majors are the STEM majors, right? So including computer science, biochemistry. I have kids every year that go into scientific or medical research, who become architects and dentists, etc. And when you're thinking about that, that liberal arts is your foundation, but we're still building on a major, right? And so it's nice to have the best of both worlds, I think, in the liberal arts curriculum. And that's kind of how the US system is built, right? We encourage you to incorporate different points of view and work with people from different backgrounds, and take on challenges and opportunities. So graduates are very successful after graduation if they go to graduate school, which many do, or if they go straight to jobs, which is probably what the majority of students do. So I think that was actually 2 minutes. And let me just say that when you do think of the American education system, think about a classroom where students and professors are kind of problem solving and having lively discussions. And I think that's a great example of what the liberal arts looks like. And I would encourage you to think about that as you envision your college career. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague to talk about majors and minors and some of the things I was just, is that you, Kristen?
Yes.
Yes, some of the things that I was just talking about as part of the liberal arts. So Kristen's going to talk about how you pick what you're going to actually study.
Great. Well, I'm Kristen Crosby, and I am the Director of International Admission at Ohio Wesleyan University. And I wanted to talk to you about majors, minors, and double majors, because we often get asked by students about double majoring or about majors and minors. But at the same time, I don't think most students truly understand what a minor is or what it means to double major. But this is an edge that CTCL schools and liberal arts and science colleges have, because you can easily move in and out of different departments and take many different classes that aren't necessarily related. So in terms of a major, this is going to be your primary area of study. It's your focus. It's that area of expertise that you're developing. And when you apply to one of the CTCL colleges, you don't actually have to know what you want to major in. I would say at least half of the students who apply to CTCL colleges are applying undecided, or they might put down a major in their application, but they're not exactly sure that that's what they want to study. So you have plenty of time to take classes in your first and second year before you actually have to declare your major, and that is make official what your major is going to be. Typically, you declare your major towards the middle or end of your second year of university or college. A major is going to be about a third to maybe about a half of your overall courses that you take during your 4 years in college. And you shouldn't think of a major as something to necessarily prepare you for a career or choose a major because it's what your parents think you should major in. It should really be something that you are excited to study, because the more passion and excitement you have for your major, I think the more you'll get out of the learning and the more you'll want to put into it. And choosing a major does not have to limit you to one occupation or career. In terms of a minor, a lot of students will ask about a minor, and a minor is a grouping of classes around a specific subject. It's kind of like a major, but it's not the same amount of courses. It's really more like 5 to 8 classes that make up a minor. Some other reasons why a student might choose to do a minor in addition to a major, they might have a secondary interest in something, but maybe a college doesn't have enough courses to offer a full major. So a student might choose to minor in it. A student might also wish to do a minor to enhance their major. So maybe it's something that connects well with a major of studies. So maybe you want to major in environmental science and have a minor in quantitative economics. They don't necessarily have to be related, but it's oftentimes something that can enhance a major, or it's just a secondary area that you are really excited to study. In terms of a double major, a lot of students ask about a double major, they talk about a double major, but as I said, they're not really sure what it means to double major. I would say that the biggest requirement for pursuing a double major is that you have excitement and passion for both of those areas of interest, because it means that you're committing more of your classes to 2 areas of interest and choosing to have fewer elective courses over your 4 years. It allows you to pursue two fields of interest. They don't necessarily have to be related. That's the great thing about doing a double major, especially at a CTCL school. You can double major in just about any endless combination. And some examples include business and biology, physics and philosophy, music and international relations. They don't have to be related. About 25% of students choose to double major, and it's still absolutely possible to graduate on time, and it doesn't have to cost any extra. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague now.
Yes, thank you very much. Financial aid. This is oftentimes the most stressful part of the college search and application process for students all over the world and families. And we are here to give you a little bit of basic information, but also to answer your questions through the process. I hope you continue to ask questions at each school that you're applying to about all of these things, but financial aid can be one of the most daunting. So it's important to realize from the beginning that many colleges and universities in the United States do offer financial aid for international students. So you may see a very large price tag of a particular school, but know that many schools and most all of the CTCL schools offer financial aid and very much want to make their college or university accessible to international students and their families. There's a lot of terminology that can be confusing, and oftentimes students might focus on one term and not understand the big picture of the financial aid process. I will oftentimes be at a college fair or answering questions when I'm talking to students about the need blind application process. A lot of international students want to know right away if a school is need blind, and thinking that if they need a lot of financial aid, that might be the best opportunity for them to be admitted to that college and get enough financial aid. The reality is there's very, very few colleges in the United States that are both need blind in their process and meet 100% of your financial need. I'd say many more of us fall in the category of need sensitive admission, especially for international students. I personally think this is a very appropriate process, because if we offer you admission, we want to make sure that we're going to have enough financial aid to make our college a viable option for you and to make it affordable. So we will take your financial situation into account, but that's purely to make sure that we can offer enough financial aid. So don't be scared off of schools that don't follow a need blind admissions process. Meeting financial need, while still sometimes rare for international students, can be much more important in the outcome. So what will your financial aid package look like? I'm going to talk about the components first and then get into the merit scholarships. So in your financial aid package, you will likely have scholarship and grant, and those are components that you do not have to pay back after you graduate. Some schools will offer loan as a component of your financial aid package. International students cannot qualify for US federal loan like our US students can. So sometimes colleges will offer this directly from the institution for students. And then work study or a campus job. International students have a more challenging time working off campus. Working off campus has to be connected to your academic major and is not just the opportunity to just earn money with a side job. So a lot of schools will make sure to offer you a campus job so that you can earn money and have a job that might relate even to your academic or personal interests. And usually that's a component of the financial aid package. So one component is scholarships. Merit scholarships, need-based grants, talent athletic scholarship. What are these different terms? So merit scholarship is could be academic, and a lot of times we'll get all of that information from your application. Other times schools will require a separate merit scholarship application. So that's something to to ask about or keep track of. Need-based aid and grants, also money that you don't have to pay back, but based on your family's financial need. Talent and athletic scholarships. This could be fine arts, it could be music, art, dance, theater. Athletic scholarships could be the sport. A lot of times international students will focus on the opportunity to get a scholarship based on the sport that they love to play. In the United States, there's different athletic divisions, and NCAA is what you'll hear. NCAA Division 1 and 2 schools are able to give athletic scholarships. A lot of us in CTCL are Division 3 NCAA, and that means we can't offer athletic scholarships. Again, don't let that deter you from the schools that you're interested in. A lot of us have very competitive, very strong athletic programs, and you may get your financial aid and scholarship in other ways, perhaps need-based or other merit scholarships, just not the athletic component. And let's see, let's jump into how to apply. Pay attention to each school that you're applying to and the requirements that they have, just like the application process in general. Some common application options that you will see will be the ISFA, the International Student Financial Aid Application. This is a free option. You have to print it out, fill it in US currency, and then return it to the school that's asking for it. The advantage of this is that it is a free process, and some schools will offer this as an option. CSS Profile is a common financial aid application, and the advantage to this is it's online. You enter it in your home currency, but there is a fee, a charge associated with the CSS Profile. If the school does not provide other options to apply and you have to do the CSS Profile, if cost is a concern, oftentimes campuses will give a fee waiver for that. So don't be afraid to ask that question. Supporting documents will depend on the school and the point in the process of the application, the point of where you are. So a lot of times we'll need verification information, tax documents, income information. Sometimes this has to come in with the application for financial aid, and other times it has to come in with the certification of finance form. Some schools will require the certification of finance form at the time you apply, and other schools will not require this until you are admitted and decide to enroll, and once you've received your financial aid package. Really, the certification of finance form is to verify that you have enough funding along with the financial aid package that you've received to fund your study at that particular school. And that form is required for the first step of your visa application process that your college will assist you with. So some tips and advice for the process. I think an important starting place is to know your family's financial resources and what your family will be able to contribute financially towards your education. Sometimes this can be a stressful conversation, and money and finances is not something that everybody is comfortable talking about with their parents, but it is important to know what is possible as you put your list of colleges together to make sure that what you can afford matches the financial aid process and possibilities of that particular college. Be honest and realistic when you're applying for financial aid. Some students will ask, how much money do I need to put on my financial aid application? And it depends on your situation. It's really important to be honest, because if you put too much that you have, then you might not get the financial aid that you need. And if you put that you don't need very much, some schools may offer you admission, but won't have a realistic financial aid package. So do be mindful of that. Pay attention to deadlines, and this goes along with the entire application process. Make sure to submit all of the application materials on time. Do your research, and again, don't be afraid to ask questions at any point in the process. We are here to help you. But a way to think about financial aid is that it is a partnership, and financing your education in general is a partnership between you, your family, and the college and university, and the financial aid that we're able to provide. So that is the basics of financial aid, and we will take any questions at the end. Thanks a lot.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dalton Lewis. I'm Associate Director of Admissions at Hampshire College, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit of information about standardized testing, specifically the SAT and ACT, as well as information about English proficiency requirements for international students. And it's an especially important year to talk about standardized testing, and I'll explain why in just a moment. I'm sure you're familiar with the SAT and ACT. Basically, for the past 100 years, most US colleges have used these standardized tests to determine students' readiness for college. And colleges have different requirements around the SAT and ACT. So I think first it's useful to describe some of those different types of requirements and what they might mean. So first of all, of course, there are colleges that require the SAT and ACT full stop. But then there are test optional colleges as well. And what that means is at a test optional college, you can choose whether or not you want to submit your SAT or ACT scores or not. And this is an important decision to consider if a college you're looking at is test optional. Let's say, for example, your grades are not quite where you want them to be, but you have strong standardized test scores, then you probably do want to opt to submit your SAT or ACT scores. On the other hand, if you have really strong grades, a lot of extracurricular activities under your belt, then you, but not such strong standardized test scores, then you might want to opt for not submitting your SAT or ACT. Then there are test flexible colleges, and this is when a college will allow you to submit different test scores in the place of the SAT or ACT. So for example, some colleges might allow you to submit AP, advanced placement scores, or SAT subject test scores in lieu of general SAT scores. And then finally, there are test blind colleges, such as Hampshire College, for example. And test blind colleges choose not to accept SAT or ACT scores whatsoever as a part of their application process. And if you're curious to learn why a college might want to be test optional or test blind, I don't want to get into the specifics of that right now, but please feel free to ask this question in the Q&A box, and we'd be happy to answer it later on. And I think, again, this is a really important year to talk about standardized tests because as of last week, over 70% of four-year colleges and universities in the US are either test optional, test flexible, or test blind. And many of these colleges are doing this only temporarily for students applying for the fall 2021 semester, but many of them have also adopted this policy permanently. And although most of those colleges are test optional, there are a small group of colleges that are test blind. There are 65 colleges thus far in the US that have chosen to go test blind. And I think it's also important to highlight the fact that out of the 44 CTCL colleges, only one is not test optional or test blind. And in that case, that's because it's a public college that has to accept SAT and ACT scores because of state mandates in the state of Florida where they're located. So if you are going to submit your SAT or ACT scores to colleges you're applying to, one important thing to keep in mind is whether they allow super scoring or not. And this refers to putting forward your best scores in your application. So for example, let's say you got very strong results the first time you took the SAT on your math section, but not such strong results on your reading section. But then the second time you took the SAT, maybe you got a much better score on the reading section and didn't do as well on the math section. Super scoring allows you to submit the best scores from each section of those exams so that you're putting your best scores forward in your application. And I think it's also important to take a moment to talk about the fact that at most CTCL colleges and at a lot of colleges in the US, we do what's called a holistic application review. So we're doing our best to take into account everything in your application as one big picture, instead of using your test scores and making the decision based on that. So many colleges that are test optional or test blind are doing this partially because they want to get a better sense of who you are as an individual and not rely so much on these standardized test scores that may not tell us really so much about you as a student. Now, aside from the SAT and ACT, colleges also usually require an English language proficiency requirement of international students. And there are many different ways that colleges will ask for this requirement. So many colleges might require minimum scores for the TOEFL the IELTS, or the Duolingo English test. And it's important when you're looking at colleges you might want to apply to find out what their minimum band scores are. So, you know, again, while they might accept these tests, they might not accept scores below a certain level. So it's important to do your research on that information. Some colleges will allow you to request an English waiver. So for example, if you live in a country that is not majority English speaking, but you've received an English language education throughout most of your school years, you can email the college if they accept English waivers and request a waiver because of that reason. And then finally, a few colleges will also allow you to participate in an interview in order to prove your level of English language proficiency. And there are many different ways that colleges might do this, through initial view, through virtual one-on-one interviews. But this is another important thing to look up at colleges you might be applying to. And on that note, questions you might want to ask, whether by emailing colleges or by searching through their website. Some of these questions might include, what are your testing requirements for the SAT and ACT, and proof of English language proficiency. So again, test optional, test flexible, test blind, or still requiring the SAT or ACT, it's important to know what colleges are looking for, and also important to know what their requirements are for proof of English language proficiency. Another important question is, can I self-report my standardized test scores? And this is another thing that's come up a lot more this year because students have less access to be able to take the SAT and ACT, and many students might be undergoing financial difficulties that prevent them from paying for SAT and ACT score reports. So some colleges will allow you to self-report your SAT or ACT scores instead of having the College Board or the ACT send the official scores from their organization. And then another really important question is whether submitting or not submitting your SAT or ACT scores will affect scholarship consideration. And that's because many colleges base their merit scholarships, which Jenny Howenstein just mentioned, on your SAT or ACT scores. So if you're looking at a test optional college and you're trying to decide whether or not you want to submit your standardized test scores, it's important to consider whether or not this will affect your chances of obtaining a merit scholarship. So I hope that provided you with some useful information about standardized testing. Now I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Marie Schofer.
Thanks, Dalton. My name is Marie Schofer, and I work with Cornell College in Mount Vernon, Iowa. And I'd like to talk today about virtual visit opportunities. So as we all know, the pandemic has been a negative in most ways, but one of the silver linings for students who live abroad is that there are so many more ways to quote unquote visit these colleges that you may be interested in. Colleges across the United States have expanded their ways to interact with students, and I'd really encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities. So I've got a list here of some different ways that students can interact with the colleges that they are interested in. At the top of the list, I have campus visit, and I'm referring to an individual visit here, where you are making a one-on-one visit to a college, either in person, or this can also be done in a virtual format via Zoom frequently, or Google Meets is another frequent way that colleges are organizing these. But this is an opportunity to perhaps meet with an admission counselor, meet with faculty, perhaps meet with a current student. And tours are sometimes conducted with a student literally walking you around on, with some kind of device, walking you through the campus. Or many colleges have posted virtual campus visit videos where you can watch a video or do some kind of interactive virtual tour on their website. We are also still hosting events. While it's not necessarily safe for colleges to host large events on campus, we are still hosting them online. So there are information sessions. Many colleges have a regular time at each day or week, or perhaps recorded information sessions that you can find on their websites. And there are also still events like open houses and admitted student events that are being conducted. I know at my institution, one of the things that we like to include in those events is a student and faculty panel, where again, the Q&A function comes in really handy. Prospective students can ask questions and have faculty and students answer those live online. We are also still doing high school visits and college fairs. They look different now. We're not standing in a gymnasium or visiting you in your counseling office at your school, but we are online visiting schools. So it's a good idea to check with your school counselor and see if there are colleges that'll be visiting your school. We are still conducting interviews, as Dalton mentioned, and sometimes these interviews are required. Sometimes they're required from a standpoint of assessing a student's language abilities, and other times they're required for admission purposes. But regardless of they're required or not required, an interview is a great way to meet with a college representative and let them get to know you, as well as for you to get to know the college. You can also use a lot of digital formats for texting, chatting on our websites, and also email. Admission counselors, while I think sometimes we get a reputation for being scary and the gatekeepers for admission, we are usually pretty friendly, extroverted kind of people, and we really do like to meet students and help you determine if our college is the right fit for you. So in the box below, I've got, why is a campus visit important? Well, I'll emphasize a couple points that I've already said, I've already spilled the beans on. First of all, for students, any interaction you have with a college can help you learn more about that college and determine if that college is the right fit for you. This is not just a process where colleges are determining who's the best fit, but you as a student, you have the power to determine what college is the right fit for you. For colleges, we can gauge your interest in us by the number of times you visit or the depth of engagement when you do visit, either virtually or in person. And the other thing is that we are admission counselors who are also advocates for you. So if we get to know you, and perhaps we're in an admission committee meeting where we're reviewing candidates who are either borderline for admission or borderline for a scholarship level, it's really helpful for us to get to know our students and being able to advocate for them in those settings. So it certainly serves you to get to know us in that way as well. So those are just a few ways to sum up virtual visit opportunities. And again, I'd encourage you to check out all the websites of the schools you're looking at and see what the opportunities that they have listed on their websites.
Great, thank you everybody, to all of my presenters for giving such great overview of the process in applying to schools as an international student. Please, audience, if you'll type your questions in the Q&A field, we will be happy to answer them. The first question relates to financial aid. So Jenny, if you could talk a little bit more about that international student financial aid application versus a CSS profile, just a little bit more clarification on that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. The ISFA is an option that some schools will offer. Other schools might have their own financial aid application. Some schools will require CSS profile, others will not. So I was just trying to give an example of some common forms that you might see. If they do require the CSS profile and cost is a concern, you can always ask either for a CSS profile waiver or if there's any other application option. And then that might be ISFA, it might be their own financial aid application.
And folks, we've got a few more minutes, so we're happy to take your questions. Please add them to the Q&A field. And while we're waiting to see what questions are still on your mind, I think one of the things that our international students love best is just the sense of traditions on campuses. And so I'm going to just take this chance for a few extra minutes if we can each go around and share a favorite tradition on our college campuses. That would be great. Why don't we start in reverse or in order that you see the names on the screen? So Rian, if you want to go first.
My favorite tradition is There's two that I really like, but I think my favorite is that when the first time it snows every year, the students fill the big archway on campus with snow, and so everybody like comes out and we all do it together, and it's just really fun. It's like a party, and it's really fun.
I'll jump in. One of my favorite traditions at St. Olaf is a weekly tradition. A local florist comes on campus and students can buy flowers for each other, and their mailboxes on campus are not locked, so they can stick flowers in the post office boxes, which I think is really fun.
I can go next, and I think that is really cute, Jenny. I love that tradition. At Hampshire, we have a tradition where when students finish their senior project, which we call the Division 3 project, there's this huge bell in the middle of campus. And as soon as you get your final project approved, you run to the middle of campus. Doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night, doesn't matter if it's freezing outside, and you go and ring the bell as hard as you can. And then the other part of that tradition is that when you hear that bell ringing, no matter where you are on campus, you're supposed to get up and start cheering and clapping. And our campus has really good acoustics, so you can hear people cheering all across campus when that happens, and it's a really nice feeling.
I like that tradition too. These are good. One of our traditions at Cornell is an athletic tradition. We have a rival school that when we play them in basketball, the very first time that we score, the entire student section throws toilet paper onto the court, and it's quite the spectacle. Of course, the young children in town like to see it. It just looks like it's snowing in the gym for a few seconds, and then it's over and we wait till next year.
I'll jump in. At Ohio Wesleyan, we have something called Day on the J. The J Walk is this long sidewalk pathway that extends from one end of the campus to the other. It's named after one of our alumni. And we have this big festival where we have food trucks, we have bands, live music, we have like all kinds of fun things going on, a bounce house, games. And it's just a way for students to kind of take a break, come together, feel a sense of community, and definitely have fun and eat good food.
And Rhodes is located in Memphis, the city of blues and rock and roll music. So it makes sense that one of my favorite traditions on campus has to do with music. Every April, there's a huge music festival called Rites of Spring. And every fall, there's a Linkstock Music Festival where students get to portray their own works, but also enjoy some local bands that come in and play. Well, thank you all so much for attending our session. Please note our contact information is on the screen in front of you, and we are all excited to work with you and answer any questions that you may have about the general college search process, and of course, any questions about our own individual institutions. Obviously, this session was not designed to give you an insight into our particular schools, but recordings of all of our school-specific sessions are available on that CTCL StriveScan website, or will be available. And of course, we all have those virtual visit opportunities that Marie shared with you as well. So we encourage you to continue exploring in your college search, and we all wish you the very best of luck in this process. Stay safe and be well. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us again, and thank you to our panelists for their time. And when you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. And also, this was just one of the many sessions being hosted, so please feel free to sign up for additional sessions. And in about a week, you'll be able to find the sessions recordings as well as all other sessions recordings at the website where you registered. So thank you and have a great day.